Hello everyone and welcome to Wildcat Gameday Preview. I'm Jonah McClure, joined tonight by Patrick Winograd. Week 9 of the football season is upon us and the Cats are looking for a bounce-back win after a 24-3 loss against Wisconsin. That loss dropped Northwestern's record to 3-4 overall and 1-3 in conference. Unfortunately for the Cats, things aren't getting any easier as Northwestern will head on the road to take on Iowa. But Patrick, before we talk about Iowa, what do you think went wrong for the Cats last weekend?
Jonah, I think there are plenty of flaws from Northwestern's performance that can be pointed out, but it all starts with the failures of the passing game. So far this season, the team has risen and fallen with the play of Jack Lausch, and that was true once again last weekend. After Lausch took care of the ball against Maryland, completing 56% of his passes and throwing for 208 yards with a touchdown on the ground, Lausch only completed 9 of his 24 passing attempts for 82 yards and lost a fumble that led directly to a Wisconsin touchdown late in the first half.
Great point, Patrick. Jack Lausch couldn't get it going through the air on Saturday, but he does deserve a bit of credit for leading the Cats with 55 rushing yards on 10 attempts. But once again, Cam Porter wasn't as involved in the game plan as he should have been. Porter has missed one game this season, but even when he has been healthy, he has failed to reach the 10-carry threshold in 2 games this season, after he failed to reach that mark just 3 times in the entirety of 2023. Porter will be the story of the game for the Cats. But Patrick, who's the key player for the Hawkeyes?
Well, Jonah, you have to look at the ground game on the other side because the Hawkeyes' Caleb Johnson is atop the conference leaderboards in almost every stat. Johnson leads the conference with 1,035 rushing yards and 13 rushing touchdowns in 2024. Johnson is also second in the conference with 7.8 yards per attempt, narrowly trailing Ohio State's Travion Henderson. And as many jokes as you can make about the history of Iowa quarterbacks, Johnson is capable of carrying an offense. If Northwestern is going to have any chance to pull off the upset on Saturday, the Cats will have to commit as many resources as possible to stopping the run.
Patrick, you mentioned the importance of Northwestern's rushing defense, and I couldn't agree more. That's been a unit that has been solid for the Cats this year, especially heading into last weekend's matchup with Wisconsin. Tawi Walker ran for 126 yards on 23 carries last weekend, but prior to that matchup, Northwestern hadn't allowed a 100-yard rusher all season long. However, even after that lackluster performance, the Cats still rank 17th in the nation with 103.4 rushing yards per game allowed, and 16th in the nation in yards per carry allowed at 3.23. Johnson has been great for Iowa overall, but last weekend, the Michigan State defense held him to just 23 yards on 13 carries before he exploded for a 75-yard rushing touchdown on his final carry of the game. Michigan State proved it is possible to limit Johnson on the ground, and the Cats will try to replicate that on Saturday. With all that being said, do you think Northwestern has a chance of pulling out the upset in Iowa City this weekend?
While I think Northwestern has a chance if certain things go their way, I do not think the Cats have what it takes to pull off the upset. Iowa is seeking a bounce-back victory after their surprising loss to Michigan State last weekend, and we haven't even mentioned how challenging it is to play in the environment at Kinnick Stadium. Including this season, Iowa has lost only 1 home game in 5 of its last 6 seasons. This year, Iowa State already handed the Hawkeyes their first home loss of the season, and I think Caleb Johnson will run with a bit of an extra chip on his shoulder this weekend and allow Iowa to protect its home field once again. I'll say the Cats will fall 26-13.
Patrick thinks the Cats are headed for another loss this weekend, and I have to agree with him. I think the Hawkeyes take this one by a closer score of 23-17. Thank you for joining us tonight on Wildcat Gameday Preview, and be sure to tune in to Northwestern against Iowa at 2:30 p.m. on Saturday. And of course, tune in to next week's edition of Gameday Preview as well. This is Jonah McClure with Patrick Winograd, signing off.